Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to talk about some crazy stuff happening in the markets. I mean, there's a lot happening in the world right now, but today I'm going to talk about why is Bitcoin trading sideways while gold and silver are taking off. I mean, it is if you are looking at a 1 year chart, it does not look good when you're just looking at the Bitcoin chart. It's down about 16% on the year. And, you know, it hasn't been trading well for a couple months for a few reasons. I'm going to get into those in today's podcast. But just keep in mind, too, Bitcoin it tends to be the very first thing to react when it comes to liquidity entering the system. Or positive price speculation, you'll see it run first. Remember the moment that Trump was announced that he was going to be the victor. It was like 9 o'clock that night. And you just saw it just run. And you just saw it run 10, 20 plus percent. And so it moves in degrees of magnitude. Bitcoin moves in degrees of magnitude. And it's just one of those things where the price gets baked in early, and then if nothing happens, it'll often trade sideways or wear you out or shake you out, as we saw over the past couple of months. So what we've actually seen over the past couple of months with silver and gold, it's a spectacular thing to watch because you can see in real time the US Treasury, the US dollar literally crash against these commodities. And I think by seeing gold flirt with $5,000 an ounce and silver pass over 100, about 103 an ounce right now, that's insane, guys. That's an insane price we are seeing with these assets. And you got to think about it. Why? Why are they going up so much? And why is Bitcoin not moved? Why is Bitcoin down 16% on the year? And so there's a lot of reasons for this, and I'm going to get into that right now. But I think it's also important when we do this and we look at this not to get emotional and jump out of an existing trade or like quickly flock to where there seems to be a lot of gains, right? Because that's a good way to get burned if you do it the wrong way. So the biggest reasons why gold and silver are going up is BRICS and foreign nations, they're starting to move towards that neutral reserve money away from treasuries, right? I think everyone is starting to see, wait, why are we buying treasuries? That can be weaponized against us. We're funding the US empire. Why are we buying these treasuries? And more than just BRICS, everyone's starting to question that, right? I mean, you're essentially funding the US government's poor spending practices. And I think people are starting to just throw in the towel and say no more. So I think, weaponizing the US dollar back in the beginning of the Ukraine-Russian war, that was the worst thing the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the US government has ever done financially. And I know many may say, well, that's just a small thing, whatever. No. That right there was the biggest strategic misstep we've ever taken. That is like, why hold our stuff? If you're on the wrong side of us, you're just going to get wiped out, right? So by weaponizing the dollar, the treasuries, and by closing off foreign assets for taking hostage a lot of the Russian assets in different countries, we pretty much sent a signal. We don't want your money. And they're like, okay, we won't put our money there. And it was a horrible, horrible decision. And so that's unfortunate because we get a lot of our power off of exporting dollars, but also of foreign nations lending us money, right? A lot of the lifestyle we get as a country, it comes to a lot of this foreign investment and the ability to export our dollars. But if that starts to close off, where's our dominance going to come from? So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised or sooner if we lost world reserve currency status. So Trump, another thing to talk about is we all know this, Bitcoin has always traded risk on, always. There have been a lot of cases where maybe you would notice stocks down and Bitcoin up on the day, right? You can look at the past couple of years with that. But generally speaking, over most time horizons, Bitcoin has always been correlated to stocks, specifically risk-on stocks. It also is the first mover. So if Bitcoin trades down 5% tonight, Sunday, the 25th, I wouldn't be surprised to see the stock market trade down 2.5% tomorrow, right? So it is that leading indicator. It is that tip of the spear. But I think there's been a narrative over the past couple of years, like, oh, like Bitcoin is, the trade to take if, the debasement trade. And while there's a degree of truth to that over the long run, over the short run, it trades risk on. Everyone knows that. You can look at a chart and compare it to the QQQs. It always trades risk on. So I also think the next thing that's causing Bitcoin to kind of trade sideways and down is Trump's backing of Bitcoin activity, strategic reserve, whatever, even passing certain regulations. It's been lackluster. There was some really good movements in the beginning, probably the first couple months, also leading up to it. But a lot of the promises he hasn't followed through on. And it's been underwhelming. And a lot of people see that. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind too, is it's like, can it sustain itself without a strategic reserve and all that? I think it will, but it's just going to take a longer time horizon. There's a lot of fear and uncertainty in the market too. So many are rotating to safer trades. I think if you just look at the past couple of years, the market's been roaring. So, I mean, that's something to really look at. The market has been roaring. And it's like, how much longer can it just continue this nonstop run, So I think many are rotating to the safer trades away from risk. And I think it's important to also keep in mind that when Trump won, we were like below the 50s. We were in like the 58K range. Trump won, immediately shot up to like 65, 70, 75, 80 really quickly right after he won. And so that all happened very quickly. And so keep in mind, the bottom of the bear market was about 16,000. And right now we're sitting at about 87, 88,000, right? So there was still a huge return. But if you were to compare putting the money into gold and silver over the past 12 months versus Bitcoin, you would be up significantly more in gold and silver. That's important to acknowledge. So again, I don't think it's important to sit on the sidelines with something like Bitcoin, because you guys saw it back on the election day last, about a year and a half ago. It ran. I mean, it ran fast. Most of Bitcoin's gains happen within just a few days because it's inelastic, right? It has a fixed supply. It moves fast and it moves sharp, both sides, up and down. So I also think it's important to look at Bitcoin or gold and silver independently. So like gold and silver can do bad and Bitcoin can do good. Bitcoin can do good and gold and silver can do bad. Both can do good and both can do bad. There's no direct correlation necessarily between these assets. Now, gold and silver, they have a closer correlation than Bitcoin, but I would actually make the case Bitcoin has a much closer correlation to the stock market, the NASDAQs, versus anything else, like a commodity. I think what's contributing to this gold and silver run as well is the erosion of trust in the U.S. system right now. It's just at all-time highs. You can even just watch some of the stuff going around, like socially, all the social unrest, the political assassinations, the system. You can feel it. You can just look people in the eye right now at the grocery store, and you can just see that this kind of worry and this fear in people's eyes, right? And so this uncertainty, you got to ask yourself, when you're uncertain, are you going to hold a piece of paper, or are you going to hold a asset that ties closely to the Qs? Or are you going to hold something like gold and silver? and many people hold gold and silver. And further, the old school investors, they're not buying Bitcoin yet. And globally, a lot of countries don't buy Bitcoin yet, right? That is mostly the newer generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, they're going to be buying it. When the great wealth transfer happens, Bitcoin should be a recipient of that. But like the older money, the huge capital flows, that is going towards Bitcoin or going to gold and silver for now. Bitcoin, it will likely come in the future, but for now, it's gold and silver. My view right now is it's the patience in the long term, right? Like nothing fundamentally wrong has happened with Bitcoin. I think it is hard to watch, just it trades sideways and down over a long period of time. But remember, if you look at the whole 16K, 20K, everyone was talking about it for the longest time. Oh, I wish I would have bought. I wish I would have bought. Blah, blah, blah. Like, this is that patient zone for this epoch, right? Now is the time to be patient and to stack what you can afford to lose over, and just and not panic and rotate into gold, because then you're going to get rug pulled and you're going to lose, right? Nobody is perfect at timing things, right? So you just got to stick the course. I think having that time horizon is huge, right? You can't just buy something and expect it to go up just because you bought it, right? It's like it's like that Office Space show when the guy was commuting to work and he was stuck in a lane and the cars were just not moving. I mean, it was just, and all the other lanes around him were moving. They were moving so fast. And he was like looking, and you can tell he was getting impatient. And he's like, why are all these guys moving except for me? And then lo and behold, he switches lanes. And when he switches lanes, his lane slows down. And the lane that he was just in starts to catapult forward, right? And I think there's an important lesson in that. Oftentimes in life, we may see ourselves in a lane that's slow, a lane that's not moving quickly, a lane that, a lane that just is just not working well. And we get out of that lane and then we realize that was not a good idea. It's like, there's always going to be a fast lane out there because it gets all the attention. All the social media talks about it. Everyone, the few people screenshot their portfolios. That's not everyone. Same thing with the Bitcoiners. Like the Bitcoiners were sitting on the sideline for a while, right? They didn't expect the immediate gains. And when it did catapult through, they made bank, right? Same thing here. If you get out of the lane, just like in Office Space, you may see a situation where gold and silver start to sell off, right? Once you start hearing people like New York Times articles, Barron's articles, Financial Times, you start seeing a lot of news media, CNBC, talking about how great gold and silver is. That's probably a time to sell most or all of your position because retail is usually the last one to get into the trades. Retail is usually the one that comes late to the party, and it's usually a signal to get out. I don't know if we've seen that yet with gold and silver, but I think we're close. I think we're within the next couple months of seeing that. So don't just sell your Bitcoin just because. I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to do. But I do think, it's just what it is right now, and I think you got to stay strong. You got to remember why you bought it in the first place, right? Did you buy it because you want to get rich? Or did you buy it because of what it stands for or the properties of it, right? What's the thesis? Why do you hold it? If you're just in it to get rich, maybe there's other things out there that are better for that. Who knows? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. And remember, like at the end of the day, you need to own your investment decisions, right? I was just talking to my fiance earlier today about Carvana. I got wiped out of my position at like $4 a share. I think she sold out of it at like 20 a share. Currently it's trading at about 500 a share. We would have had millions of dollars more if we held our positions. I got forced sold because it's my contract when it ended. It sold my shares. But the point is, you look at that and you start to say, I own these investment decisions. I own these trades. I need to stand behind them through thick and thin. And if something about the thesis has changed, I need to acknowledge that and I need to get out. Right? That's a multi-million-dollar mistake I made with this Carvana thing. And same with her. It's like $100,000 mistake she made. But you got to own it and you got to learn from it. And same thing with gold, silver, Bitcoin. You can't just follow the winds of because then you're just going to be getting tiny little gains here and there because you're following it when most of the move has already happened, right? Don't just follow it when most of the move has already happened. So guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, about why Bitcoin is trading sideways, why gold and silver are taking off. I really love doing this. I love hearing from you guys. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.